Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is July the 14th, 2024. Hopefully this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. It's been a hot Sunday, but a good Sunday. Overall, just moving along. Let's see here. Food corner. What did we eat last night? Actually, it was a good one. I didn't do too much. Kind of stayed to myself, but I took myself out to eat, and I went to this Mediterranean restaurant called, I think it's Al Zaytuna Grill. Really good. A friend had told me about it like months back, and I've been meaning to go, so I had the time. I got actually got a whole lot of food. I went for appetizer. I got some falafel, and then I got some hummus, both banging. And then for my main entree, I got a lamb shish kebab. Had rice. It had like a little bit of salad on the side with this beef vinaigrette that was pretty good. And then of course I had some lamb. It just all came together. It was nice. So it was nice to do that, treat myself. Let's see here. Oh, and then also a little bit of a snack and beverage corner. When I was at the grocery store today, I snagged some yerba mate. I never had that before, and I heard some podcasters talking about it, and I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. Why not? And I gotta say, it was a bit overpriced for what it was. It was kind of mid. But it's pretty much just like some tea, and so I added some sugar to it, and that definitely helped. And I was eating some Sour Patch Kids with it, so that was kind of nice little combination. But yeah, overall the weekend's been good. Definitely got some big news to get into, so we will go ahead and do our startup and start off with a bang. Let's go ahead and do that. Okie dokie. All right. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if you heard this news, before I'm actually getting to it. That would make sense. It was pretty big. But yeah, from USA Today, Thomas Matthew Crooks identified as Trump shooter at Pennsylvania political rally. So yeah, they tried to come for the man. They tried to come for the king. Oh, shit. The man who shot former President Donald Trump at a Pennsylvania political rally has been identified as Thomas Matthew Crooks. The FBI has identified Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20, of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, as the subject involved in the assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania. The Bureau said in a statement, "This remains an active and ongoing investigation, and anyone with information that may assist with the investigation is encouraged to submit photos or videos online at fbi.gov/Butler or call 1-800-CALL-FBI. Let's see here. I'm trying to think. Yeah, so this took place at a Pennsylvania rally, kind of like a small town situation. Everyone here seemingly loves Trump. I wasn't watching it at the time, but like news of this shit popped up. So like next thing you know, I'm just watching clips on this shit in the middle of the day. But essentially, Trump's, he's doing his rah-rah, his bullshit. He was talking about immigration. You can hear it where you just hear these pop sounds. And you see Trump like grab at his ear, and then next thing you know, Trump hits the ground. And then like before he's even getting up, he's swarmed by Secret Service, and they like surround him Praetorian Guard style and like just become bullet sponges for him, and they just escort him away as he's like stumbled up, and like there's blood coming out of his ear. He's like doing the Trump fist thing. He's yelling, "Fight, fight, fight." And I think everyone sees this picture and like it just gets cemented in your brain. he won. He did it. Like this is it. Like to me, this is literally he's 100% Reagan 2.0 at this point. You know, except damn, he didn't even spend that much time in the hospital. You know, they gave him the checkout. He's fine. He's probably going to be at the RNC convention on Monday. So I mean, this was a crazy scene that unfolded. Crooks was killed pretty much immediately. We didn't quite find out until like maybe an hour or so after. But also another person was killed at the rally. I believe his name is Corey. I'm getting his last name wrong here. It's in another article. Give me 1 second. Corey Comparatori. And this was from the CBS News. Pennsylvania man killed at Trump rally identified. Corey died a hero. And yeah, I will definitely say he did. He heard shots. He immediately went to protect his family and sadly died in the process. Which is kind of me leading into the second part of this. And look, I understand, as a millennial myself, I've grown up on so many conspiracies. We've talked about that shit a decent amount on this fucking podcast. I get it. I get why people will immediately kind of go there. But for me, I feel like that's crazy. It's a crazy leap to go, oh, this was definitely a planned thing. It just looks staged. Look at all these angles. And it's like, y'all, I literally covered a fucking assassination attempt in, Poland a few months ago. Like, this shit does happen. Like, people are acting like, oh man, presidential figures or politicians don't get shot like they used to. I've seen that meme, like, making the rounds again. And it's like, no, they do. And actually, it's not always JFK magic bullets and shit. Like, sometimes people get shot and they die. John Wilkes Booth, Abraham Lincoln. Other times, like I said with Reagan, they don't, Like, or the motherfucker, I cannot remember his name, but like that motherfucker took a bullet and he's still okay. You know what I mean? And that was like a 71-year-old who did that shit. In this situation, it was a 20-year-old. And talking about the shooter, he was a active Republican. At least that's what he was listed as. Of course, his family has firearms and stuff. They also found some suspicious devices that he was potentially going to be using. I don't know, but they haven't really released too many details on that. Also, doing a little bit more digging around from what I've seen so far. I think like 2 weeks ago, though, he randomly donated like $15 to like some kind of a Democratic cause or something like that. So yeah, I mean, once again, I'm not saying that there's nothing untoward about this or nothing fishy or whatever, but I just hated that, like, to see some of my friends, to see people I know immediately go to that like speculative place of just like, oh, this is a false flag operation. This was staged so that like Trump can easily win. Like, honestly, look at the situation at hand. Even if this assassination attempt didn't happen, it looked like Trump was doing pretty good. It looks like Biden's not going anywhere. His old ass is going to stick in. And even if he did decide to switch it up, there's like maybe the one poll, with Kamala Harris coming out, maybe beating him. Maybe. Like, no, Trump is in a pretty fucking good position. He didn't need to get fucking, Evander Holyfield. He didn't need that treatment. So, I am of the belief that this is a real fucking thing. And also, I've covered situations where you have the people like Alex Jones saying like, oh yeah, the Sandy Hook shit's not real, blah, 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 crisis actors. And it's crazy to see people on the other side of the conversation in a liberal sense do that. So, I get it. I'm not trying to fucking yuck your yum or whatever, but you're just not going to hear me say that on this podcast. I'm sorry. I don't mean to burst your bubble or, be a bummer guy, but that's just how I feel about it until I actually hear any evidence that disputes that thought and theory, that this was a real fucking event. And it's also another thing, too. They're like, oh, man, I can't believe someone would go through all this shit. They're bear crawling on a roof and, they go through all that just to miss. But, like, once again, let's state this is a former president, so he has a fucking Secret Service, detail. You also have cops in the scene. It's a smaller group, but it's still a group of people. Like, that's a lot to be able to just to say you were inches away from assassinating a president. It's a big deal. And in terms of like, oh, it's a human being, blah, 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 blah. Sure, of course, I'm not advocating anyone going out there to do violence, but, let's fucking face it, y'all. We don't want either of these candidates. I remember them not even a week, what was it, with the 4th of July, there was spreading the meme around, like, wouldn't it just be so funny if, like, these guys got into a fucking duel and, like, killed each other, like, politicians of yore. That shit was getting passed around. So yeah, what I like for these motherfuckers is like spontaneously combust, and we could just get new guys. That would be awesome. That would be fucking sweet. But once again, I'm not advocating for anybody to go out and make it so. But all the same, very crazy. I knew I had to start the episode with this shit, and yeah, I'll definitely keep you posted on anything else I hear coming down the pipe. But yeah, big news. I mean, once I saw him just pop up, fist up, blood on his face, and I already saw the merch, dude. Like the t-shirts are already pressed. So motherfuckers are definitely gonna be coming out and rallying, and we'll see what happens to our fucking God Emperor, if he's gonna slither in and just take the shit by a landslide or not. I don't know. I don't fucking know. But yeah, from one leader to another, let's take the newsstand. Yeah, let's take the newsstand to Pakistan. From the Associated Press. I'm sorry. A Pakistani court acquits ex-Prime Minister Khan, but supporters' hopes of his release are dashed. All right, so we got a little bit of Khan update. A Pakistani court on Saturday overturned the convictions and 7-year sentences of former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his wife, but officials quickly moved to prevent his release from prison. The acquittal in a case relating to the legality of the couple's 2018 marriage seemed to have removed the last hurdle in the way of Khan's release, nearly a year after he was jailed, and his followers had started gathering near the prison where he was being held in the garrison city of Rawalpindi to greet him on his release. But shortly after the court's ruling, Khan was arrested again in connection to riots last year, his party said. It added that it believed Khan's wife, Bushra Bibi, was also being arrested again in a lingering corruption case. Authorities have registered multiple cases against Khan since 2022, when he was ousted from power through a vote of no confidence in the parliament. Khan has been embroiled in more than 150 legal cases, including inciting violence, since his initial arrest in May of 2023. Early this month, the United Nations Human Rights Working Group called for Khan's immediate release, saying he had been detained arbitrarily in violation of international laws. Let's see. Saturday's acquittal relates to Khan's marriage to Bibi, his third wife. She was previously married to a man who claimed they had divorced in November of 2017, less than 3 months before she married Khan. Islamic law, as upheld by Pakistan, requires a 3-month waiting period before a new marriage. So essentially, this was like petty technicalities that they were trying to like tie Khan and his wife up in, and they were doing this so like, hey, he would be out of the running. He couldn't run. He couldn't be in power. So they have a new prime minister. That shit's already in the wax and it's done. What is it, Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif? So yeah, to me, it definitely feels like Pakistan has like the political arm, the government arm, is just doing way too much. It made sense to me. I've said this before. I'll say it again. That like Khan was doing way too much to try to continue to stay in power, and so they went out of their way to check it. That made sense to me in the realpolitik of this bullshit. But now it just seems like they're doing this overkill, trying to like keep him in jail, and it's like that's just not gonna work. It's definitely seems inevitable now that like, no, we can't do this. It seems like, once again, petty technicalities. We're not going to uphold them. Let's let him out. Like, why are you going out of your way? Like, this, in my mind, makes your image as, the Pakistani government, like, look worse. You know what I mean? But we'll see. I definitely wanted to provide this update, and we'll see what comes of it. It's weird, right? Because like I said, I was definitely like, yeah, no, I feel like Khan needs to go. It doesn't seem like he's, really in there for any other purpose other than himself and his own, self-fulfillment. And he's doing this whole cipher shit, all the Americans are involved, blah, 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 just to get attention and say like, hey, you guys should continue to rally around me. And the military and once again, the Pakistani government was like, no, fuck you. We can replace you. Don't forget that. And that's what they did. But it seems like, once again, keeping him behind bars is only making their image look bad and making him look like more of a martyr, So, we'll see how things go. So, really, that was, like, kind of the crux, the meat, those two stories, that was the news at hand. But there are definitely some lives we lost, some celebrities, some big names that I wanted to kind of run through. So the old RIP. I don't like to do too much obituaries, but definitely a couple of these people were like their names. Like I remember them. I grew up with these people, so it's definitely a bit of a bummer. So we'll actually go ahead and do our last break now, and we'll just kind of run through these a little bit, get a little nostalgic, give our flowers. But yeah, let's do that. All right. From the Associated Press, Richard Simmons, a fitness guru who makes laughs and sweat, dies at 76. Richard Simmons, television's hyperactive court jester of physical fitness, who built a mini empire in his trademark tank tops and short shorts by urging the the overweight to exercise and eat better, died Saturday. He turned 76 on Friday. Wow, man, it's so crazy. Motherfuckers like dying like on or around their birthday. That shit's always like you feel good because it's like they got to it or got like at least a day or so past it, so they at least got to celebrate. But it's definitely like a bittersweet. Simmons died at his home in Los Angeles. His publicist Tom Easty said in an email to the Associated Press. He gave no further details. Let's see. Let me just talk about my little bit. He was probably the first exercise guy that I had ever seen. Didn't know too much about his story until like I kind of would grow up later and get little pieces and bits. But yeah, he would like have like these big bright sequence tops, these tank tops and short shorts with the the chunky socks and the white shoes, and he was just always sweating it, literally sweating to the oldies. But it was cool that like when you got down to his philosophy, it was very much like common sense kind of dieting. It wasn't like crash diets. It wasn't fad diets. He wasn't trying to sell you on something trendy. He was trying to make sure that you were getting out, being like, doing exercise, or even if you weren't getting out, at least like watching the videos where he's like on the step thing and, he's doing the steps, hitting it, I don't know, you're doing your squats and stuff. At the end of the day, I definitely wound up becoming more of a Billy Blanks guy, but, definitely Richard Simmons was one of the guys who I looked at as like a pioneer. And it's definitely a shame because he got teased a lot. He was teased as like an obese kid. That was definitely kind of part of his transformation. But then he would just be teased also as a celebrity. Let's see. Simmons embraced mass communication to get his message out, even as he eventually became the butt of jokes for his outfits and flamboyant flair. He was a sought-after guest on TV shows led by Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas, and Phil Donahue. But Letterman would prank him, and Howard Stern would tease him until he cried. He was mocked in Neil Simon's The Goodbye Girl on Broadway in 1993, and Eddie Murphy, who put on white makeup and dressed like him in The Nutty Professor, screaming, "I'm a pony." Also, he did a stint as an exchange student, and he kind of tells a story in a way that's like an origin coming of age, and like it was like a positive thing for him, where he was like a commercial actor for like peanut butter, and like these bacchanalian like big eating kind of situations, and it was like in Italy, and people loved him. They enjoyed him. They thought he was really fun. And they're like, you gotta, like, someone had left a message like, hey, you have to change how you're eating because I don't want to see you die. I'm happy to see you happy, but like clearly you're very overweight and you're gonna die. And I hate motherfuckers like that. Like, I get it. Thank you for giving a fuck about my well-being and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. But, like, if I'm living a good life, don't worry about me and my belly. Don't worry about the grease around my fucking mouth. If I die at fucking 50-something, then let me die like that. At least I died happy. Fuck. But Simmons was not like me. He took it as a motivation. Now maybe he went a little too far. He starved himself, like a crash diet in a way. And then he would gain the weight back. But after that, he's like, no, okay, I'm going to do this a sensible way. And essentially just really worked on sensible eating and working out and did a lot of balancing and got to the weight that he wanted to get to. And I think that's really fucking awesome. He was a man who did this, throughout the fucking, the Atkins diet, the diet supplements. I mean, there's just so many fads and trends and weight loss that he got through. But yeah, inevitably he kind of became a shut-in. People even made podcasts where is he, missing Richard Simmons? And I remember that, and he had to come out and said, hey, no one's exploiting me, I'm not a hostage, I just kind of want to be left alone. And kind of now I'm thinking about this shit out loud, it almost reminds me of Tina Turner, where she was out of the country, she was gone, she had her husband, she was good, you know what I mean? And maybe Richard Simmons didn't have that, but he just wanted to be out of that shit. And it makes sense, motherfuckers was teasing him, motherfuckers relentless, he just wanted to spread some love. And it was crazy how he had that ability to balance comedy, but then also a certain kind of seriousness, because he knows that it's look, when it comes to weight, there's so much wrapped in it. It's not just a physical thing. There's a chemical aspect. There's a mental aspect. There's so much. And balancing this thing of being light to kind of cut through a depression, but then also serious enough to be hey, but I'm trying to get you to do this thing, of losing weight and living a better, healthier life. That's a certain kind of alchemy. That's a certain kind of magic. And, now that he's gone, I feel that's definitely a hole. You just don't find motherfuckers like Richard Simmons anymore. I mean, trust me. Sure, you can find a bunch of guys and gals and fitness motherfuckers and fitness influencers or whatever the fuck, on Instagram or in YouTube, but I guarantee you they don't hit like Richard. All right, and that's where I'll leave it. I know this is a long obit, but I really do feel a way about this guy. Salute, flowers. And to one of my favorite witches, to the next story, Shannon Doherty, Beverly Hills 90210 and Charmed star, dies at 53. This is from Variety. Let's see here. Shannon Doherty, known for her roles on the wildly popular series Beverly Hills 90210 and the witchcraft fantasy Charmed, love Charmed, has died after being diagnosed with breast cancer in 2015. She was 53. Also, they don't say this, but she was in Scare Tactics. That was a banger. Even though Scare Tactics wasn't my favorite show in terms of that was one of the first shows where I'm maybe punk style, reality TV. Maybe that's not it. Maybe that's not cool. But I do remember she was on it. I think she was one of the first hosts. So, pioneer all, throughout all things. Also, I didn't know until I read this article that she directed a few episodes, including her parting episode in Charmed, and that's pretty cool. I know this is supposed to be about the person, but obviously it's my podcast, so what's my connection to this? I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but I'm a big Buffy Angel fan. Charmed of the same ilk, because these are all shows that I would just watch with my mom. So I remember whenever I got the chance to do that, that was very fun for me. And if I was sick or whatever, I would get more time to do that. So these were comfort shows for me. And I just remember growing up and being oh my gosh, these witchy women are so cool. And I would get a double dose of it. I would get Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and that was oh, that's TV for me. But if I got lucky and I got to watch TV with my mom, I would get Charmed too. So it's damn, dude, I'm getting a double dose of witches this week. Ooh wee. So that was nice. That was cool. So this was definitely a person I grew up with in my own way, in my own time. I know there's people who are older than me. I guess the Gen Xers, they're a little bit more familiar with the Beverly Hills 90210. I will say I respect that show. Cool beans. Awesome. Love that. But I categorize it as, how do I say this without being problematic? Oh, fuck it. It's one of those shows with pretty white kids with problems. So Dawson's Creek. Pretty white kids with problems, because we all have problems too. If you watch Mad TV, you remember that bit and you're the real one. But every kind of show like that, 90210, Dawson's Creek, Seventh Heaven, I give a pass because I was religious, but that was pretty white kids with problems too, the umpteenth degree. Those are all shows that I'm like, okay, I get it, but I don't get it. This is kind of going over my head. So she was really big on that show. I think that was like her breakout, Beverly Hills 90210. But yeah, I really wasn't there for that. But her as Prue, that was top witch for me for a while until she was gone. They swapped her out for another person who is also amazing. I know I should know her name and I don't off the top of my head, but I really did love all three witches. But yes, I know this is supposed to be about Shannon Doherty. Giving flowers, giving love. You can read the whole variety thing. I just wanted to kind of riff and say how she affected my life and how I'm going to miss her. And yeah, R.I.P. Fuck cancer. Okay, we have one more thing, and you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna do a double break because this is for fun. This is for life. Anyway, fuck it. Ooh, yeah. Yummy, yummy. Okay. From CNN. Ruth Westheimer, sex therapist known as Dr. Ruth, dead at 96. Dr. Ruth Westheimer, the iconic sex therapist whose cheerful and disarming advice helped educate millions of Americans about sexual desires and practices, has died. Her publicist, Pierre Lehoux, told CNN on Saturday. She was 96. The diminutive, grandmotherly Westheimer was a leading advocate of sexual education for decades, dispensing colorful, witty advice in her distinctive German accent. But she died on Friday with her two children at her side. So that's good. It's always nice to kind of go out more or less on your own terms with people that love you. It's always nice. Let's see here. Westheimer's first radio call-in show, Sexually Speaking, that's a banger title, debuted in New York in 1980 and proved so popular that it quickly became syndicated around the country. It also catapulted her to TV fame in the mid-1980s with her, I should know how to say this, eponymous? Gosh, shame on me. The Dr. Ruth Show on the Lifetime Network. Over the next several decades, she hosted, let me get this out of the way, she hosted a handful of other TV shows in which Westheimer took calls from fans around the country and spoke candidly about a wide range of taboo sexual topics. She ended many of her shows by urging her audience to have good sex. So, hell yeah. That's a good quotable to end on. You should have good sex. I totally agree. I'm trying to do my best there. Best I can. You know what I mean. All right. But yeah, on that note, I think that's where we'll leave it. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah. Mwah.